All right, hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about using files and sanding with sandpaper for your metal projects. So let's start. The purpose of all of them, they're all abrasive. So what that means is they take away, and we're taking away a little bit at a time. So it's not like, oh, I want this to be a rounded shape. I'm going to sand this or file this to get there. That would be something that would be better done with a saw. But if I want to make sure this edge isn't sharp, or if I see that this is a little rounded and I want to straighten it out a little bit, those are the types of things you do with filing and sandpaper. All right, so files. Our purpose, you don't need to file every part of the surface or edges. These are better for like little bumps if you have a mistake in where you were sawing, or interior spaces. And what they do is they fix those little bumps or clean up those edges. So for instance, here I have this circular piece. I have a space here where I can see that there's like a little bit of a dent or a groove. I want to clean it up some. I can go and find a file that works for what I'm doing. So you have round files, flat files, bevel files. So this one's got a rounded edge, and I can hold my piece and work on filing just to clean up that little area. I wouldn't want to do it everywhere, but any place, like I see another spot right there, that I see that I have some grooves, this is a nice place to work on it. If it's the whole thing, sandpaper would be a lot better for that. Okay, also for those interior spaces, here's a great example. There's a piece here with a little bump, so I can go to my flat file and I can work on pushing against that to clean up that edge. Now, two things, you might not be noticing this, but if I'm holding my piece in my hand just freely and I'm pushing with my file, then this hand's pushing this way, this hand's pulling back. It's a lot of extra work. So you want to try and hold your piece against the table, against your bench pin, or in my case, I have this mini anvil I'm going to use. So this way, if I hold my piece right up against it, I have more leverage and it's less work for me. And that way I can kind of continue. Your files they have teeth on the top and the sides. So if you are doing something like this, I have to be careful not to put it right into that groove, because if I do, I'm gonna cut away a little bit on the other side too. So just be mindful, and if you are filing, just check every once in a while to make sure you didn't go too far. Okay, last thing about files, they work in the push stroke. So if I'm trying to file an edge, I've got like a little bump here that I wanna work out. I don't wanna go and pull back. It's really more of push, let go, push. If you do pull back, it's not the end of the world, but what it does is it weakens and it bends over all of these tiny teeth over time. Okay, so those are files. We have a lot of different types. If you need other types, let me know. Let's talk about sanding. Okay, sandpaper, the point is to clean up surfaces or edges. And we have lots of different types because depending on what your goal is, you might want to get it all the way to polished. Most people prefer their metal to be polished, so it's really shiny. Just know there are ways and reasons that you might pick a different finish. For instance, if you think of like a brushed finish that maybe you see in your bathroom, sometimes people really like, or like in your faucets or kitchen sink, some people like that brushed look. And so if you are doing that, you might stop at some point along the lines of your sanding process. We're gonna take it more up to finish though. All right, so we have lots of different types of sandpaper, okay? For the surface, you use medium sandpaper first, work your way up to fine. For edges, sometimes you use coarse if they're really bumpy, or you start medium to fine, but you never wanna do coarse on the surface. It's just too abrasive for what we're doing. All right, the way you know the type of sandpaper, I have here my numbers. 600 and 1,000 are more of our fine papers. We have them in a separate drawer. We have 400. I know there are lots of numbers on the back here, but so this is kind of in between. Here is 150, so it's kind of between coarse and medium. And then our most coarse, 100. Okay, so coarse is really great if you have really big bumps that you have to get out because it takes them out really quickly. But a lot of times surface, you really don't want to start with that. So I'm going to start on the surface of mine with 400 sandpaper. let's say this is my project. I want to work on it and sand the surface. It's really difficult to hold it down evenly. So a nice trick for you is using a tape circle as like a support. So I just have masking tape. I'm gonna take and put it around my fingers with the sticky side out. So now I've got a lot of like leverage because this is sticky. Can hold my metal and I can start to sand it. If you notice that it's not flat, like this is sticking up, I might want to go use my mallet and my steel block first to make sure it's flat, because it'll save me a lot of time and it'll really be helpful to do that. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit on the other side as well, just so you can see it. Now, if your metal's not flat, it'll take you a lot longer to sand. So for instance, you can see where I've been sanding here. It's touched at the edge and a little bit in the middle, but I really haven't made much progress on the sides. This is all reflecting back that my metal wasn't really flat to begin with. Okay, if you have a little bit of that and you really can't get out the curve, you can always take a scrap of your metal or your sandpaper, and you can do this by hand here. Notice, once again, I'm not holding it in the air and sanding it. I'm setting it down on a surface. Makes it a lot easier to get, so you have less of the pressure that you have to absorb, and the table absorbs more. So you can see it's starting to get all sanded in this area. I definitely still have some places that I need to do a little bit more. I like going in all one direction because it tells me if there are some deeper grooves. And I definitely see some like lines and stuff that if this were my final project, I would go back and do more sanding to get there. Let's say there are really deep grooves you can't get out with this. You could always go to more coarse sandpaper and then come back to this one. I'm gonna pretend I'm done with this level. So this is my medium sandpaper. I'm gonna go to my fine sandpaper now. I like to then go in a different direction. So I'm gonna put my tape circle back on. Different direction helps me see if I'm able to get out all of the lines from my medium sandpaper. Remember, it's an abrasive, so it's slowly cutting away a little bit on the surface to make it shinier and shinier. Really shiny surfaces are very smooth. All right, so now you can kind of see this area is the place that my new sandpaper has been working. It's got a lot of lines all in the same direction, but I definitely still have some places that I haven't really finished it up. So I would keep going until you get the type of finish you want, and then you can think about polishing and all kinds of finishing surfaces. Let's talk about edges. So if I have a straight edge, right, and I want it to be really straight, a nice thing that you can do is utilize the fact that our tables are really straight. You can hold it down, and then you can go like this, and that starts to work on cleaning up that edge for you, okay? If you go like this, it's not terrible, but be careful because a lot of times we do this without realizing it, and that will start to round the edge. That's why I like to go like this, pull it sideways, okay? Now, when we look at that edge, you can see how shiny it is, and you can see that almost all of it has the same shine, except there's a little bump right there. That tells me it's not quite finished, and I would want to keep going here, okay, until that area is all the same. Now at that point, when I feel this, it's a little rough, I can go to my finer sandpaper, other side, and that way it makes it nice and smooth, okay? So always start with medium unless you have major bumps that you're trying to get rid of. And then you work your way up to the fine. Once you get to that fine level, if everything looks good, you can start to think of what type of polishing and finishes you want. Thanks for watching.